Assalamu alaikum everyone. It's Leah. Hi. I'm going to be doing a brief video today, and I want to apologize ahead of time if I'm always sort of looking down over here because I have some notes written down. Last time I did a video about Islam, I talked about acquiring knowledge as a new Muslim. We're going to kind of play off of that today. I'm going to be talking about a concept called Tazkiyah, which I think a lot of us are familiar with, but we might not know the Arabic terminology. And in fact, when I was first asked to talk about this as my topic, I had to Google the Arabic term. And sure enough, as soon as I Googled it, I was like, oh yeah, of course I know what that is. But we don't always know the Arabic, especially us new converts or us converts. I'm not exactly a new convert anymore, but still a constant learning process. So Tazkiyah is basically, to keep it as simple as possible, is the concept of purification. And we are talking about inner purification, purification of the self, of the soul, of the heart. Not talking so much about ritual purification, like washing up before you pray. That's not a topic I'm going to cover today. We're just talking about purification of oneself, your inner self. Basically taking steps to try and make you close to Allah by perfecting your deen to the best of your ability, perfecting your religious practice. So there are a lot of different things that you can do to go about, purifying yourself. A lot of it is really personal, I find. What makes one person feel close to Allah might not resonate as much with someone else. But I do have a couple things to go over and talk about that should be applicable. Some of them should be applicable to everyone, and some of them might resonate more with others. The first one is pretty universal. I think, at least as Muslims, we should be trying to make it universal, and that is, our ritual daily prayers, the salah. So if that's something that, if you're able to put some concentration into it, is a really good tool for helping you to feel closer to Allah. Now, especially for those of us who are not native Arabic speakers or fluent Arabic speakers, putting concentration into salah can be really tricky. And even people who are Arabic speakers, because when you say and you do the same thing every day, multiple times a day, it becomes more of a habit, and it's not. It's not good, but it's not like bad. It's the way that our brain works. It's natural for our brains to try and conserve power. So we've said these words, dozens, hundreds, thousands of times, so we think less about it. And who among us is not guilty of their mind wandering during prayer? We've all done it. It's not good. It's not desirable, but we've all done it. And especially if you've just memorized the sounds of the words because you're not an Arabic speaker, it can be even harder to make that connection. So there's a lot more effort that you have to put into it to try and, what I try and do is translate it in my head. I think a lot of converts probably have a translated version of Quran. So in mine, I have the Arabic script, and I'm fortunate because I studied Arabic briefly in college, very briefly, but enough so that I remember all the letters and I remember, how to read it. So I'm able to sound out the letters and everything, and then there's also translation. So as I'm saying the words, I'm translating in my head what it means so I can try and concentrate on the meaning and not just the sounds that I'm making. And that in itself can really help me to feel closer to Allah. One really important part of the prayer is the sujood, which is the part where we say in English prostrating. So that's the part where we're kneeling down on the ground and our forehead is touching the ground. That's what that is. This, to me, is a really poignant and beautiful part of the prayer, right? Because during this time of the prayer, you're praising Allah the Most High. You're saying, those are the words you're saying in Arabic, is that Allah is the Most High. And we, at this point, are physically at our most low. Even if you are, if you get down off your bed or your couch or chair, wherever you are right now, and you lie down on the ground, your forehead is not most likely not going to be pressing to the ground. So when we prostrate to Allah, we are physically at pretty much the lowest point we can be. So we are at our most low, praising Allah for being the most high. And it's also said that during this time of sujud is when Allah is closest to you. So even if you're not able to really concentrate that hard on the meaning of the words that you're saying during prayer, remember this one part, and I find it to be really, really powerful. You're the lowest, He is the highest, but you're still closest, the closest that you can be, which I think is amazing, subhanAllah. So if there's only one, if you really struggle to concentrate in prayer, which I think we all do from time to time, I really encourage you to try and put focus on just that one part where you kneel down on the ground and put your forehead to the ground, because that is when Allah is closest to you. And for me, I find that a really effective way to try and bring my heart close to Allah and remember, how powerful that is. Another thing which really works well for me is remembrance of Allah. So the Arabic term for that is dhikr. So it can be, a lot of people sort of do like a repetition. One that's pretty common is Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Or, there are a lot of different things, and you're basically repeating the name of Allah or repeating some sort of praise of Allah. And I personally find it pretty effective to do that sort of in repetition, sort of let the words wash over you and let the meaning of the words wash over you. And find whatever you think is most powerful. For me, the most powerful phrase in Islamic Arabic is La ilaha illallah. And I think I've talked about this before. Just remembering La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah. That is the very basis of our faith, right? That's like the number one. That's the most basic thing about Islam. If you can only know one thing about Islam, that's the most important thing. There is no God but Allah. That's the most important thing. So I like to repeat that phrase, La ilaha illallah, especially at the times where I'm feeling far away from Allah and I want to bring myself closer. And I think this can really play into, the purification of oneself. If you just try and remember these simple, beautiful things about our faith, it can help you to, become stronger and closer with Allah. Also, of course, reading Quran. And the Quran, I apologize, because I'm kind of going over things that work best for me and hoping, inshallah, that they translate to other people as well. So reading Quran is something that is effective for me. And by reading Quran, I mean reading a translation, because it doesn't do much for me to read words I don't understand. The Quran is what brought me to Islam. And more specifically, the concept that this was, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was, he was a very intelligent man, but he was illiterate. He could not read or write. And without, meaning any disrespect towards him, there's no way that an illiterate person, or frankly, a literate one who, obviously because it's from Allah, but it just, taking this into the perspective of someone who isn't Muslim yet, right? So there's no way that an illiterate person could have come up with something like the Quran. The linguistics of it have been studied throughout the centuries, and it's something unlike anything else that's ever been written. So remembering that some people are really drawn to the science in the Quran, that one resonates with me less, but it's still there. Whatever resonates with you the most in the Quran, reading it and really trying to take in the message. And also something that's important that's mentioned to me is, when you're reading Quran, really try and focus on, the virtues that a Muslim should embody. And I'm not talking about the ABCs and the black and white and following the rules and blah, blah, blah. I mean, being patient, being generous, being kind. These are all things that are talked about in the Quran. So read that, affirm the things that you already are, which is an important thing as well. You don't just want to set all these, of course you want to set goals for yourself and try and find ways to improve, which is a big part of the point of Tazkiyah is, you're purifying yourself. There's a goal, there's something you're working towards, but you also want to find the things that already have place in you. And I would like to think that most people, when they accept Islam, there is kindness in their hearts, there's generosity in their hearts. So, you have those things, there's an anchor there, and then work towards getting better. And a lot of these ideas are talked about in the Quran. Also, along that same line of thinking is, Islamic manners. And you can read, study the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and see the way that he interacted with people, the way that he embodied a lot of the things that I just mentioned, which really ties into the last point I'm about to make, which is personal humility. There are some, I hesitate to say sect, but I don't have a better word for it, like some groups of Muslims who think that poverty and what is the word I'm looking for? It's not minimalism, but that sort of concept where you have as little as possible are important things to being a Muslim, which I see the point. There is no evidence that you have to be poor to be a good Muslim. However, on the other hand, you do want to remember that almost any time the Prophet ﷺ acquired wealth, he gave it away. A lot of his wealthy companions gave their wealth away. And we see lots of wealthy Muslims these days who are not great examples of good Muslims to the world. But anyway, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent. It's not about money per se. It's not about being wealthy. But even if you come into fortune, whether it's wealth or, if you have a beautiful family or a great promotion at work or whatever it may be, not letting that get to your head, really keeping personal humility, because arrogance is an illness of the heart, in a manner of speaking. That's something that can really take away from your purity, is thinking like, you want to have self-esteem, of course, but thinking that you're better than other people. Remember that everyone is the same in the eyes of Allah. The only thing that differentiates us in the eyes of Allah is our religion, is our practice of Islam. So this is sort of kind of wrapping up the concept in a neat little package. And yet at the same time, I'm having a hard time coming to a conclusion. Trying to take all of these points and focus on improving your inner self, such that if there is something amazing, and inshallah, I hope something great happens to your outer self as well, that it doesn't become more important in your life than Islam, striving to have that closeness with Allah and the humility and Islamic manners, and trying to keep your heart and yourself as pure as possible. I could probably talk about it more, but I don't want to talk myself in circles and make things any more confusing than they may already be. So if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments. I usually hover around, and of course the admin group of About Islam is always around there as well. I hope everyone has a good day. Assalamu alaikum.